Here's my table saw sled. I'm not going to go into a lot of details on how I built it. There's plenty of videos out there that show you how to do that. Where mine's a little different than many of them that are out there is I built it with a piece of Luan as a substrate. I think Luan is 5 millimeters thick, so it's a little bit thinner than a 1/4 inch, and that represented some interesting challenges when it came to actually build the sled. The runners were straightforward. They were red oak. I used a dial indicator to help me trim them down to the size that I wanted them to be. Turns out I think I over trimmed them a little bit. The sled had a little bit too much play in it when I was done, so I had to beef it up by adding a little bit of tape to the sides of the runners. I had to screw from the top, and you can see the 6 screws there. And of course there's glue on the underside to hold it. And similarly, to glue the fences, particularly the one on the back, because it's so critical to get it square, I had to pin it on the right side and then adjust it on the left. I was able to drill a hole and screw it and get it in the right spot. And once I confirmed it was in the right spot, I was able to glue it. Going forward, it may have made more sense to put a little bit of wood on top of the Luan in this area. That way I'd have a little bit more material to play with when it came to screwing and everything. What I did do though to line it up was I used my dial indicator with a square, and that technique actually worked pretty good. I salvaged this piece of plywood. It was the center panel on a flat panel door. It's already got a finish on it. I think it's a 1/4 inch or 5 millimeter Luan. Here you can see the 1/2 inch long flathead screw. As long as I don't overdrive it or countersink it, is just about the right length. I'm going to be coming in from the top, so the screw right now is upside down from its final orientation. This upper edge has been glued in place. The bottom rail here, there's a screw on the right hand side, and right now I'm at the point where I have to get it perfectly square, and the method that I'm using is a square in a dial indicator. I have a square clamped to the lower rail of the sled. It's got a screw on this end, so I can pivot this, and you can see the dial indicator moving. I'll make a note of where the indicator is saying it is. Now I'm going to push the sled forward, and you'll see that the dial indicator is deflecting toward the left about 5 mils, which means I don't have this edge of the square parallel to the runners on the table saw. I'm going to change the angle of this lower rail by rotating it clockwise to it's about -2 on the dial indicator. By experimenting, I think I have the lower rail set to the right spot. My jig actually rotates a little bit in the miter gauges, a few thousandths of an inch. I think where it is right now is more or less about as parallel to the miter gauges as I'm going to get it. And I think on a jig like this, if I can get within a couple thousandths, that's probably within the limits of my workshop in general. I cut the runners for this sled purposely undersized with the anticipation that when the summer comes, these runners are going to expand a little bit, and I didn't want them to be jamming up. However, they were so undersized, I'm disappointed that there was a little bit of play side to side when it was sitting in the slot. But I took some aluminum tape and I put it on the sides of the runners to take up a little bit more of the space. Thanks for watching. I hope maybe this video gave some of you guys out there some ideas and some useful insights.